Hey everybody, long time no see. Okay, this video is long overdue now. I don't even know what to say. I'm just gonna watch this and go through it with y'all. So, let's get to it. Basically, you already know Orrin and Orson, they were reported missing in a while back, and we have some updates. Let's see what they gotta say. Oh yeah, and one last thing. Make sure you like, subscribe, and comment, and definitely make sure you hit that notification bell so you can get all of my new and upcoming videos. Alright, y'all, let's get into it. Alright, if you guys don't remember this story, it's about Sincere and Classic, aka Orrin and Orson West. I'm gonna say aka Orrin and Orson because their real names are Classic and Sincere, named by their mother, but they were renamed in foster care. One was 3 and one was 4 years old. Orrin was 4 and Orson was 3. This all started on December 21st, 2020. That is when the police put out an alert for the 2 missing brothers. They had been reported missing by their adoptive parents, Trezell and Jacqueline West, from their home in California City at around 6 p.m. Red flags were immediately raised when they could only come up with a photo of Orrin for the first media pictures, and it took several hours to update to include a pixelated picture of Orson, the 3-year-old. If you look at this picture that I put together right here, you'll see the difference. The top is when they were with their mom, and the bottom is when they were with the West. This is also a picture of them with their mother. Now, the night that this happened, Trezell said that around 5 p.m., the boys were playing on their back porch. He says that Jacqueline, which is the foster mother, was inside wrapping presents for the children when he went out the back gate to gather some wood for a fire. And he said when he returned, both of the children had vanished. So Trezell got inside his van and drove around the block for about 6 minutes. Now, I'm going to play some of the interview from the parents for you guys, just for a reminder. But also as a reminder, remember, these 2 boys had on sweaters outside. But it was so cold that he had to go and get some wood to make a fire. All right, here they go.
It was cold. I was going to make a fire. So a lot of wood in this area right here next to our house. I opened up the back gate. I'm throwing wood, bringing it inside the house. My wife's inside. She was actually wrapping gifts, so we thought it was a good idea that our youngest 2 go outside and play with chalk on the back patio. Do not let them go on the dirt in the backyard and keep them close. So I was playing with chalk, and I came in the house. I saw them there. I went in the house. I came back out. I didn't see them now. I immediately went back in, asked my wife, did you see the boys? She said, no, they should be outside playing with chalk. I said, well, I didn't see them, so I came back outside and I started searching my backyard. I searched the whole thing. I realized that I left the gate open and I panicked, came inside the house, searched the house, me and my wife. Once that hadn't pan out, I got in the van. I looked down the street, both directions. It was getting dark, getting cold, and I got in the van and I hit a bunch of corners. I went down this street. I turned my light on. I searched. I called their names. Talked to a gentleman on the street on the other side over there. He didn't see them. So then I came home and I told my wife we need to call the cops. It's getting dark and I need help. We gotta get going. They are going to be rambunctious, okay? They are going to be here in this area.
What do you guys want people at home to understand about this situation? For them, even speaking about what you guys are feeling is difficult. What do you want them at home to understand about this whole situation?
We're going through it. It's difficult. I mean, everybody's making their own their own conclusions. They don't know anything. We're not sure everything. We're not sure. We said what we knew, and if anybody has seen them, or anything, please call the police department. We just want to thank everyone in the community for all the support we've seen. We felt so helpless. And seeing everybody out here really looking and helping out really means a lot.
They officially finalized the adoption in April of 2019, changing the children's name from Classic and Sincere to Orrin and Orson. The family had lived in that house for 3 months before the boys were reported missing. There was Trezell, Jacqueline, Orrin and Orson, 2 of their other adopted children, and 2 biological children. The 4 other children were not in the home at the time and were actually at the grandparents' house for the Christmas holiday. My thing is this. Why wasn't Orrin and Orson there? If this is their first Christmas with the family after they finalized the adoption, wouldn't this be a big thing for the family? Well, that drew red flags for the police department, and they quickly got search warrants and also canines to track any scent, and they also took the family's van. The dogs, unfortunately, did not trace anything of the boys leaving the home. Hundreds of community members from California City and surrounding areas searched tirelessly for the missing boys. Many started chanting, "Where are the boys?" and were extremely concerned with the lack of help from the adopted parents. The community just wanted to know why the adopted parents were refusing to share updated photos and were confused because the photos on the flyer were not at all recent. The photo of Orrin 4 was from 2018, and the photos of Orson 3 was from the adoptive uncle's Facebook post in 2019. This, as you can guess, raised red flags again. The most recent photos of the boys were from 2019, found by the public, and it just so happened to be on the adoptive uncle's Facebook post. And it's the same picture that they put on the flyer showing that he went missing. If that's the most recent picture you have of them, then when did they really go missing? And is that grandmother telling the truth when she said she seen them in December? I don't believe it. But after all this, we do have some good news, even though it's not the news we wanted to hear or the outcome. But at least now we're not sitting around wondering anymore. We know, and now justice will be served.
Good morning. My name is Cynthia Zimmer. I am Kern County's District Attorney. 1 week later, crucial information came to light that necessitated the involvement of the Bakersfield Police Department and the Kern County District Attorney's Office. This morning, I'm saddened to announce that the investigation has revealed that Orrin and Orson West are deceased. The investigation has also revealed that they died 3 months before their adoptive parents reported them missing. I am pleased to announce that this week, the Kern County Grand Jury indicted Trezell and Jacqueline West, the adoptive parents, for the murder of Orrin and Orson West. The indictment charges 5 counts. The first count is murder. Charges them both with murder, with the victim being Orrin West. The second count charges murder, with the victim being Orson West. The third count charges felony child abuse against the person of Orrin West. The fourth count charges child abuse against the person of Orson West. And the fifth count charges false report of an emergency. Naturally, the first 2 counts carry the most time in state prison, murder. It is charged as murder in the 2nd degree. That carries 15 years to life, but with 2 victims, the potential penalty, or the maximum possible penalty, if convicted, is 30 years to life for each defendant, Trezell and Jacqueline West. Now, the grand jury indictment is a formal charging document, and we followed a process in charging them before the grand jury, and that was the district attorney requested that the grand jury convene to hear evidence regarding an indictment that we presented them. The district attorney's office then presented information to the grand jury, and the grand jury found there was sufficient evidence to hold Trezell and Jacqueline West responsible for these murders, and they returned what was called a true bill. So oftentimes we call it they were indicted, but what they did is returned a true bill on the indictment. Department 1 Superior Court judge issued warrants for the arrest of the defendants, and they were arrested last night at about 7 p.m. in Kern County. They are currently in the Kern County Jail waiting for an arraignment on the indictment, which will be tomorrow. There will be no preliminary hearing in this case because an indictment is a substitute for a preliminary hearing, and this case will proceed directly to trial. The announcement of an indictment in this case probably raises a lot of questions about the facts of the case and what you and the public would like to know. I'm not permitted to go over the facts of the case in this case, but there is something that I'd like to discuss because the facts of the case are to be what we produce in the jury trial, because we want both the prosecution and the defense to have a fair trial in this case. However, one of the questions that I'm sure you would like to know is, have the bodies of Orrin and Orson been found? And the answer to that is no, they have not been found. However, I would like to emphasize that the fact that law enforcement have not found their bodies does not preclude a murder prosecution. As a matter of fact, there have been many hundreds of what we call no-body homicides prosecuted across the United States successfully, and even no-body homicides have resulted in murder convictions in Kern County. I'd like to introduce the people who are standing here with me today, who have been crucial in bringing this case forward. Eric Smith is the person to my right here. Eric Smith is the supervisor of the homicide unit at the DA's office. Next to him is Brian Estep, also a homicide prosecutor in the DA's office, and these two gentlemen are the people from my office who presented the evidence to the grand jury, and this grand jury hearing began 3 months ago in December of 2021.
On behalf of myself and, of course, Deputy District Attorney Brian Estep, I would like to thank the allied agencies who worked tirelessly throughout this investigation. That includes also the Kern Regional Crime Lab and also the DA investigators in this case. Kern County law enforcement worked together at first in an attempt to locate Orrin and Orson West, and as that continued, it turned into the investigation into the disappearance and ultimately the homicide of the two boys. The lead investigative agencies, Bakersfield Police Department, California City Police Department, they worked tirelessly throughout the course of this over a year since this occurred to follow up on leads and complete the investigation. Investigation that was continued even throughout the grand jury hearing. The indictment itself took approximately 3 months. Over 50 witnesses testified during the course of the indictment. Much of those witnesses' testimony was extremely emotional as it related to this case, but that's to be expected from a case that involves the murder of two innocent children. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. To my right, to my left, are two chiefs of the lead agencies in this case that did most of the work. Bakersfield Police Chief Greg Terry and California City Police Chief John Walker. Chief Terry, would you like to say a few words?
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. This is not the outcome that we and so many had hoped and prayed for over the last year. Our thoughts and prayers go out to the families of Orrin and Orson who, with this news today, their worst fears have been realized. We now realize that the search for the boys began after the real tragedy had already occurred. And the last thing I would say is this is not a resolution in this case. And there will not be a resolution completely in this case until these boys are brought home.
Thank you, Chief Terry. Chief Walker, would you like to address the audience?
I know he has to be heard because this is about the only police that I've recognized from the entire case. Like, he's been the main police officer.
Good morning. Thank you for being here. Let me emphasize, first and foremost, this is a tragedy, an absolute tragedy that was reported in my city, that two small boys could be killed by their parents. But I do have to say how proud I am of my department from the second we got the call until we brought in so many resources. We're very grateful for that. But the second we got the call, we were on scene. We began to work it and look for these kids. And we had so many agencies involved, Kern County Sheriffs, the Search and Rescue, CHP came with their helicopter to help us. But the citizens of Cal City came out in numbers to look for these kids. And it began to grow to the outlying communities and eventually across the nation. We were getting people who were interested and they wanted to know where these kids were as well as us. And then eventually Chief Terry and the Bakersfield PD came in to help us out, and they've been instrumental to make this happen. So I want to thank all those people again for helping us to try to come to some kind of resolution with this. But again, the bottom line is we have two small boys that we believe are no longer here that are dead, and that's terrible. But again, I want to thank the District Attorney, Cindy Zimmer, for being brave and diligent to push this forward and actually bring this case to the surface. So we will push forward. We haven't given up, and we'll continue to give them any kind of help that they would need in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief Walker. While the defendants in this case, Trezell and Jacqueline West, are presumed innocent, the securing of a grand jury indictment is a major step in ensuring that there will be justice for Orrin and Orson. The community members that came out and helped search, and then the community members that just continue to care about what happened to them. If you have any questions, those are the end of my comments, but keep in mind there are ethical restraints as far as what we can talk about prior to the trial in this case.
Well, let me try.
Thank you. I think he had his hand up first.
Thank you, District Attorney. How can we confirm that the boys had died 3 months prior to their reported disappearance if bodies haven't been found? Can you kind of explain how that works?
No, I cannot, but I can tell you the facts in court will show that we were able to prove that to the grand jury, that the boys have died, that they were murdered, and we did that through a combination of direct and circumstantial evidence, and the grand jury was convinced that they were dead. Thank you.
Given that you say that they died 3 months before this was reported, and that the fact that Trezell and Jacqueline lived in Bakersfield and then moved to California City, Chief Walker, do you believe, can anybody say whether Orrin and Orson were ever in California City to begin with?
Mr. Gaspar, that's a good question, and that's something we're going to answer during the trial.
Can't say more than that.
We cannot go into the facts of the case.
As far as trying a case without a body, because since I assume you don't know where the boys are. Is that right?
We don't know where their bodies are.
You
That's
don't-
what I said.
Okay, so you don't know where their bodies are. What will that present kind of a difficulty in trying this case without a body? Public out there has at least some that I've run into say, well, they can't try somebody without a body. How are they going to do that?
As I explained in my earlier statements, no body homicides are tried all the time. And we have evidence that was sufficient to convince the grand jury, and we have sufficient evidence that we believe will convince a jury that they are not alive. And we have evidence.
Have you tried a case here without a body before in Kern County?
Yes, we have tried to successfully, at least that I know off the top of my head. I have those names, the Leonard Bryce Thomas case and the Daniel Rhodes case, successful murder convictions. And there may be more, but those are the two that I can remember. Yes?
Can you talk a little bit about why second-degree murder in this case rather than first?
No, I cannot. I can't really discuss the theory of liability in the case because that would involve the facts.
Okay. And then also, I'm so sorry, one more question. Can you talk a little bit about why you guys decided to go down the grand jury route and attain that rather than the average procedure?
We try, I've done over 20 grand jury indictments myself throughout my career. It is something that we commonly do on homicide cases, which involve calling live witnesses. And also sometimes we do it because there has to be a little bit of starting and stopping regarding scheduling. A preliminary hearing is continuous. You don't have start and stops. And at a grand jury hearing, you can do 2 days of testimony 1 week, 1 day, so there are a variety of reasons that we considered in this case, and a lot of, if you look back on some of our high-profile homicide cases, most of them did go to grand jury. Yes.
We have unconfirmed reports that a white RV was pulled over by law enforcement yesterday at Highway 43 and Highway 58. And some were saying this was possibly where Trezell and Jacqueline were taken into custody. Are you able to confirm that? And also, near Potomac Avenue, the neighborhood where Trezell and Jacqueline have been living with his parents after they moved back from California City, there was a helicopter with a searchlight going over around, I want to say, 7, 8 o'clock last night. Can you confirm that that was looking for Trezell and Jacqueline?
The defendants, Trezell and Jacqueline West, were taken into custody last night around 7 p.m. by the Bakersfield Police Department in western Kern County.
How did that happen? How did you find out that the Winnebago that was there? We had spotted it earlier in the day in Edison, and then it was the same Winnebago that you guys found yesterday. How can you say what tipped you off that the Winnebago was there at Enos Lane and Highway 58?
No. Any other questions? Yes, ma'am.
What does this say about the vetting and background process for adopting parents here in Kern County?
Ma'am, it's not the job of the district attorney to talk about those types of things. It's the job of the district attorney to look and see if a crime was committed and bring those guilty parties to justice. Yes.
Are the defendants cooperating, and have they admitted to any wrongdoing?
I can't discuss. That is absolutely prohibited. Any type of statements by the ethical canons that attorneys are required to follow. I won't comment on the evidence specifically. I won't comment on statements. Yes.
Are these the only arrests that are going to be taking place in this case? Is there plans to bring in anybody else or to arrest anybody else involved in this?
If I had those plans, I probably wouldn't tell you, but I can't tell you anyway. It's a good question. I don't mean to be trite, but I'm not going to comment on that. Yes.
I do
Go
have
ahead.
one more. We do know that Orson and Orrin were 2 of 4 adopted kids. They also had another 2 biological kids. Any idea of the whereabouts of the other 2 adopted kids and the biological kids as well? And were there any signs or prior signs of prior abuse in the household with the other 4 kids?
I'm not able to discuss that, but it's not like the other 4 are missing. They are in the care and custody of the Child Protective Services. Yes.
Were Trezell and Jacqueline West under surveillance for a considerable amount of time before you made an arrest?
I cannot answer that. I mean, I know, but I shouldn't be answering that. Yes.
Have you spoken to the biological parents of Orrin and Orson since you learned of this news? And if so, what was their reaction to this finding?
Well, Mr. Smith has had contact with some of the biological family in this case, and I would have to defer to him about that. Our office, grand jury proceedings are secret. They are confidential. They are not to be revealed until after an arrest is made in this case, and in any case. So we will, now that there has been an arrest made, we'll be able to talk to the family of the victims more so, but even before that, we weren't able to really go into detail with them, although I can tell you we have had contact with the family.
Was it a unanimous vote with the grand jury to bring forth the indictment?
I don't think that's something that can ever be revealed. I think that's confidential information in the hands of the grand jury. I can tell you that there was sufficient number to do it, or it wouldn't have been a valid indictment. But whether it was unanimous or not unanimous, I don't know, because they don't tell us.
Can you say which legal counsel will represent the suspects?
They will be arraigned tomorrow, in court, and if they cannot afford counsel, they will be appointed, or if they want to retain counsel, they can do that. So we don't know. We won't know in the criminal matter who their attorneys will be until tomorrow morning.
How do you guys plan to bring this news to the biological family? Obviously, you know, we're saying you guys have given confirmation that both boys are diseased as well, but there's no concrete evidence showing this. It sort of feels what's been going on for almost the past year, where the family and the community has sort of been left without any answers. And that constant question has been brought up, you know, where are the boys? And I mean, you're saying there's concrete or, you know, confirmation that they are diseased, but how will you guys bring
It's
this?
called a jury trial, sir.
Okay.
That's where we will prove that they are deceased, and we have and the grand jury has already found that they are deceased, and we have presented evidence that. As far as the news that went to the biological family, I think the news did that last night. I think you were out at the scene with biological family before we were even had the defendants in custody or had an opportunity to do this press statement today. So as far as news to the family, I think that they already know.
Questions?
Yes. And just a couple more questions, please.
Could you talk a little bit about the sentencing for the other two charges, the willful cruelty to a child? What's kind of the average for that as well?
Well, what that term carries is 6 years.
Okay.
Correct, Mr. Smith? 6 years.
And would that be changed because there's 2 counts of that, or for each defendant?
That's kind of a complicated sentencing question. You look to see if the conduct supporting the homicide charge, and you take what's called it's a determining sentencing, whether or not you get any more time on the child abuse cases counts if they're convicted on the murder. Kind of depends on the facts and circumstances.
Okay.
I have a question for Chief John Walker. You did submit your resignation recently to the department. You had to resign as chief of the California City Police Department. Can you give us a reason, you know, why you decided to resign from the department, your plans, or so forth?
I think that
we were preparing ourselves for this because just based off of our own research, and everything we've been doing over these 14 months, we were waiting for this day. It just was a matter of time. Now that we know what's going on, we could finally, get justice for the boys. But the question is now, where are the boys' bodies? We want to be able to bring them home and, give them a proper burial and have closure for the families, because it's been a struggle of trying to keep our emotions together and just, hold our heads high and stay positive and keep our, God first and our prayers and everything. And it's just been a lot. So, that's all we want right now is their return.
What was your reaction to know, it was 3 months before it was even reported missing?
I mean, that right there, like I said, we did a lot of research and our own, did our own, like everything. Like it's a lot. You guys will be amazed of what the ladies behind the scenes did. They knew this. What happened? It didn't happen in Cal City. Put it like.
All right, you guys, you heard it out of their own family's mouth. It did not happen in Cal City, which the other lady wouldn't confirm.
That they knew it. We knew that. They never made it to Cal City. A lot of things happened 3 months before, they were reported missing that we found out. So we're gonna see if that, leads up, if that has something to do with the boys missing.
Obviously, this gives confirmation of, the worst case scenario that a lot of us in the community did not want this to end up, the way that it has ended up today. Do you feel like DA Zimmer sort of gave you guys any new insight, any new information today as far as this case?
I mean, she confirmed it, you know what I mean? But we like I said, we felt this and we knew, like some of the things that came out, we knew it. And it just confirmed our facts. Like it confirmed it, so sorry. And but like I said, we found out, when you on social media, you see everything. You got these street medias, you got these scanner groups, you have all this stuff. So you have all the support around the world for the babies. So somebody's always sending us something. And so when I got the picture of the RV, we were on it. So we got out and everybody came down from Lancaster and Cal City, like, it was a lot. So we was out there when we showed up to, Potomac, because we thought that's where it was. We seen everybody, the news there, so everybody must have been on the same page. Everybody got the same information at the same time. So that's how we all found out. So, and now we...
Basically, she's saying now they're looking for the bodies so that the family can rest and heal and the boys can rest in peace. Now, for this grandmother, she could have just been a grandmother and just don't remember, when the last time she seen the boys. But she did say December. Even though we know for a fact they were gone way before then. So, I don't know. I guess we'll find out more details as they go on. If anything, it has to be them other kids that's talking. Like it said in the indictment, I will be going over the indictment actually in my next video. So make sure you hit that notification bell, like, subscribe, and comment, and see you soon.